implementation, and the whole notion, I think, of administrative reform and working within public administration, implementation structures, implementation networks, has been missed. Obviously, that requires hundreds of people because it's easier to target a specific bill that you want to become a bill of rights, establishing something, than really to be active on how, let's say, a law on soft drugs is really implemented on the ground. I can see why that is a limitation, but in that I think that the party has always been against the party regimes, the cartel party in Italy, but now the parties do not exist anymore. In Italy and elsewhere are very weak entities, so probably it's hard to imagine what the party has to say now that the parties are disappearing in many countries. What, however, is very clear, at least in countries like Italy's, the parties have become the state. There is no difference between parties and state. The parties, if you look at their budget, only live because the state funds them. 85, 90, 95% of their budget is made up of money extracted via tax revenue to the citizens. So they are symbiotic, congenial. And you have on the one hand the cartel party, but you could say the cartel party in the state and exists only because it's symbiotic and inside the state. The second limitation, so this is, I'm not sure it's really a limitation, the analysis of the party. I think there are elements of truth there. The second limitation is that the party, with all these clever ideas, has not been able to grow in membership and electorate. Now, you can say that for a true libertarian party, being big in terms of MPs or MEPs is not particularly the end. The end goal is to win campaigns, is to get results done, is to get policy change, and not to get bigger. But they're being accused of not being able to capitalize on the enormous sympathy. Whenever their propositions were put to the electorate, they were very successful. One way they grew so much in public sympathy, at least in Italy, but also in Tibet, Cambodia, Mali, and other countries, is because of the successful use in Italy of the referendum. The Italian constitution enables the citizens to strike down legislation if a sufficient number of signatures are gathered. And that has been a kind of the Italian way of opportunity to strike down illiberal, technically fascist laws that were approved in 1930, 1935, 1938 by the Italian fascist state via the referendum option. And they won some of them, but here you see an element of learning on the part of the cartel party and the state. The window of opportunity created by the referendum instrument has been cleverly closed by a series of landmark judgment of the Italian Constitutional Court on the one hand, and by some truly unconstitutional, illiberal decision, however taken by the Italian government with the support of the Italian parliament. So, for example, the party won an important referendum on the funding of political parties in Italy and struck down the principle of public funding of parties. The next day, the Italian parliament said, fine, we lost, therefore parties will no longer be funded. What we give, however, is an electoral reimbursement to those parties to get their guys elected in parliament. And guess what? The electoral reimbursement was bigger than what they got before as party funding. Indeed, that created a motivation to create more parties in parliament. So that the list would be one at the moment of election that would break down in 5 or 6 parliamentary groups when in parliament and claim 5 different vicious states. Yes, okay. The third is an important limitation that, notwithstanding the libertarian principle, notwithstanding the scientific disorganization of the party, this project has been very fragile and contradictory. You need a lot of capacity to chase issues in Mali, the United Nations, the European Parliament, Tibet, etc. You only have a small number of people available, and you also have to engage people who are active at the local level. So you have to get the people from where they are, from Exeter as well from other places. And this de facto has created a party that has always been ruled by a very small group of charismatic leaders, so much so that the statute of the Transnational Radical Party, I think, is still suspended, or has been suspended for many years in its implementing provisions. Sorry, if you look at the statute of the Radical Party, it's really beautiful. It's a complex web of participation from the ground, from the bottom. Everyone can. There are no delegates to the General Assembly. Everyone goes. If you remember, going for participate. But all this works only if you have a lot of people who participate all the time. When you don't have that, you have a fragile center with very few financial and political levers that typically ends up in the iron law of oligarchy. It becomes a very center of charismatic leaders, and the very few really spend 26 hours per day fighting for the party. So what I say in the paper is that there is friction between the libertarian vision of the party, the design of complex, deliberative organizational architectures, really nice if only they work, because on the other hand you have the concentration of party activities around a small group of people. So I think I just have the final slide, and Sam is on video as well, and has been able to follow that, so I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you very much. Matteo, do you want to come and give your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Yes. And then maybe we could ask Sam for a couple of words as well from this point. And we'll open it out to everybody.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Can I risk?
Yes, go.
Well, I marked down some notes to try to add something to this very colorful picture that Claudio has already made, which is not very easy because, as you saw, the issues that we are trying to tackle are many and are very, some of them are really ambitious. They have they imply a very constant long-term engagement that it's very uncommon, I would say, in Italian politics, because it's normally made of the issue of the day and we pass on to the other item, although the usual item is Mr. Berlusconi, for the last few years, 15 I think years. Well, first of all, I would like to say that as member of the Senate of the Radical Party, I would like just to explain what this Senate is. Of course, it's not the Italian Senate. Senate is the key organization, the key body, the central body of the Radical Party, which is like the American Senate. That's where we draw inspiration from for its name. It's the body that puts together all the representatives of the different sub-bodies, organizations that made up the Radical Party. So the picture that Claudio showed before was included the Italian branch of the Radical Party, Radicali Italiani, the Luca Coscioni Association, which is the association fighting for freedom of research, so freedom of research on on stem cells. It's the organization that carries on the struggle for the living will, for anticipated directives, and with the ultimate goal of legalizing euthanasia. We have the other group, the organization which is Hands Off Cain, which is dedicated to the eradication of death penalty, which is not acting like Amnesty, because, for example, Amnesty proposes the eradication tout court. That's what of course, our ultimate goal is, but we want the difference between us